to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
I do not like this Biden twit. I do not like him one little bit.
And Dale Hummel.
Today I shall behave as if this day I will be remembered.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, do you have a mask on?
No, I do not have a mask on. I'm in my house, Dale.
Are you going to wear a mask anywhere in Texas?
No.
Let's celebrate.
Because our governor wants to live, and he said no more mask.
No more mask, 100% open as of March 10th?
Yes.
This is exciting. Abbott comes out and basically says we can open our businesses if you so choose. Statewide face mandate or mask mandate also ends on the 10th.
Mississippi did it all yesterday.
That is awesome. I think let's hope there's a snowball effect. And what I appreciate about Abbott is the fact that he is encouraging people to do what they feel is best, what they see fit. If you want a social distance, if you want to wear a mask, all of that is fine. And I think this is what you've talked about many times, Ryan. Let's leave it up to the people to choose what they want.
It's kind of the point of America, freedom of choice.
But we've kind of lost track of that, I believe.
Oh, the most.
We have.
And that brings me to another topic.
Now, wait 1 second. I know you're going to go way deep into the other one. I just want clarification because you are there in Texas. The justification was just the decrease in hospitalizations, I believe, which we can attribute to.
Yeah, that's what he said. I'm not being bitchy or anything. I don't think that has anything to do with it. If you're in Texas, you will know this. Like, we're not wearing them. And so it's kind of stupid to say, hey, you're gonna, when they're not doing it. I said back at the NFR in December, there was several people that would walk around and tell you that you needed a mask on, and they would just look at you like you were crazy. So, I mean, this has been coming, but unless you're in a big metropolitan city, there's no wearing masks in gas stations or Walmart. Or I think that has as much to do with it as the science and the decreased hospitalizations and all this other stuff, because, like, we're just not doing it.
It's a bit like our stock show rules that if they can't be enforced, let's just not do it. Let's not have it.
Mm-hmm.
I do look at the numbers a little bit, and it appears as though we've been dropping on hospitalizations, deaths.
You're going to be wearing a mask in 2030 in your state.
In our state, we probably will, but there's just a point, and I'm seeing it here in Illinois. I hope we're seeing it in some of the others. And again, I had a chance to speak with a couple people yesterday that have lost relatives and close ones to COVID, and I certainly do not want to make light of it from the standpoint that there are people that it affects dramatically, whether it's because of age or secondary conditions, and or what nobody wants to talk about, just the genetic predisposition to allow COVID to hit you that hard. It's there. There's no question in my mind. I do not know why we're not talking about it in the medical community, but there's no question that we have a percentage of our population based on genetics, blood type, that is affected much, much more seriously. And that's frightening to me because we aren't talking about it. We don't understand it. And that's a problem. Okay. With all of that, what are your thoughts on cancel culture, Ryan?
This has been going on like a year now. And I've tried to stay not crazy bitch status about a lot of it. But when the Biden administration decided that Dr. Seuss's books should no longer be on the reading list for whatever they put out and wiped them off. So that caused the Dr. Seuss company to decide not to publish 6 of their books. I don't know what people think is so offensive about a cat in a hat. I don't get it. It's supposedly racist imagery and all this other stuff. These things have been around for almost 100 years now. Literally. He published like his first one in like, I think it was 1920. I can't remember. It's been around 90 years because he celebrated 75th anniversary of the first book several years ago. Anyhow, my point is, it's been around almost 100 years. Nothing has been found offensive. Millions of people across the world, regardless of what gender you were, back when we only had 2, race, creed, religion, orientation. Love these books. And now we have decided that they should no longer be in circulation. And they put so much pressure on the Dr. Seuss company that they literally canceled 6 of them. Now, I don't know what that generation that was raised on South Park where they killed Kenny and Chef talked about his chocolate salty balls every damn week finds so offensive about a cat in a hat, but they have pissed me off. I mean...
They did not cancel South Park.
No, because now they talk about COVID on South Park. But anyway, I mean, I am pissed. And we all know that, like, my Facebook gets a lot of traction. Those 2 posts about Dr. Seuss yesterday went crazy. I mean, crazy.
And rightfully so. Ryan, I have 10, 11 quotes in Dr. Seuss that I looked up real quick this morning. And when I read through these quotes, you want me to tell you what they remind me of?
I'm listening.
You. They fit that. You. Literally. And when I stop and think about it, I'm going to take it all the way the other direction on how non-racist they are. Let's take a gay conservative trust fund baby. We could discriminate against you if someone so chose.
Go right ahead.
But these quotes do not. They're the opposite. Kid, you'll move mountains. Today I shall believe, as if this is a day I'll remember. All of these quotes are perfect. They're encouraging. They're inspiring. They're everything. I'm confused.
Well, let me add to your confusion. Michelle Obama, the most popular woman in America, during reading week, she literally had people dress up like Dr. Seuss characters, read the books to children. Obama gave a speech about the fact everything we need to know about life we can learn from Dr. Seuss. So,
and that's the most intelligent thing he's ever said.
By far. But now this is the first black president of the United States said this, and we're not talking about 20 years ago, people. He was just in office. And his wife had people dress up like these racist imagery characters, and it's all perfectly fine. Now, 2021, they gotta go. I'm over it. I'm serious.
So I'm confused. What and I didn't understand how this initiated within the Biden administration or within his staff. But what would motivate them? What would they possibly think that the reaction wouldn't be as it is? Why would they miscalculate that so badly?
I think because they're just a bunch of idiots.
Why would it even be on their radar?
Don't they have better things to do with their time? I mean, to my knowledge, nobody's got a stimulus check yet. He's bombing people. There are other things that he should be doing. I mean, I will say he did announce yesterday that everybody can get vaccinated by May. So that is a positive in his category. He moved that up 2 months. But there is way other shit on his list that needs to be up there way higher than removing Dr. Seuss from the reading list.
We've already known this, but if you can't find a better example of how ridiculous the direction this administration is taking us and what they're looking at and what they're doing in support of cancel culture, it's beyond. Even some of our left-wing late-night TV hosts, are starting to pick up on that we've gone too far. This is crazy. I never thought they would jump on board and make fun of it, but they're beginning to.
This is just beyond me. And like I said, one of the posts on my Facebook is, Dr. Seuss wasn't canceled. You need to do your research. Bitch, I do my research. Biden is the one that struck Dr. Seuss books from the reading list, which prompted this, which I didn't even...
Ryan, do you have access to your Facebook right now? The post you put up there about Dr. Seuss describing Biden or fighting back.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have that in front of you?
Oh, I can get it. It's really good, really good.
I would love for you to read that to our audience.
I do not like this Biden twit. I do not like him even one bit. I do not like his creepy stare. He often makes me want to swear. I do not like all the diversity or forgiving tuition to the university. I do not like his immigration views. Most time, he's just very confused. I do not like the way he speaks. We'll have to buy oil from sheiks. I do not like his view on war or most things he stands for. I do not think he's smart. He's really just a dumb old fart. He really doesn't have much use since he's gone and killed Dr. Seuss.
Ryan, that is the best description of our current president that I've heard yet. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It just is what it is. While we're talking about President Biden and some of the things that are going on right now.
How about how he keeps asking where he is?
I don't understand it. I just don't.
Do you see? This is every day. Why does he say that? Like, can they not at least say, okay, Joe, let's not ask where we are today on a microphone in front of people?
I really don't know.
Is that too much to ask?
I would think that there's hyper controlling him, but when he says things like that, I start to wonder.
I bet I've seen 5 videos in the past 2 weeks, different videos. Like he's dressed differently in different backgrounds, whatever, where he lit up. Where are we?
Just amazing. Just amazing.
And then your girlfriend, Camel Toe, she had to tell him to put his mask back on and go get it the other day.
I like it. She's trying to help out.
Uh-huh. Right. She's so helpful.
She is. What about the Homeland Security Secretary coming out and saying we're not in a crisis at the border? And a few days later, Biden gets briefed on we're short 20,000 beds. And right now, migrant kids exceed all-time record across the border by 45%. Amazing. They're out of beds. It is, if there's not a better definition of crisis, if there is one, I've not seen it. It's amazing. One of your representatives there in Texas had made the comment, and this is maybe the best way to describe it. It's simply unintended consequences from his actions. And I don't know how they couldn't think through this and see these consequences coming. But the influx that we're going to have on the border in terms of number of children, number of everybody coming across.
Well, that's because they basically said if you show up with a child, you get in.
It's wide open. And why wouldn't they come? If I'm in a Central or South American country having issues or difficulties, guess what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
I feel for those people, and I would love to help them, but I promise you by letting hundreds of thousands of them into our country without documentation, unfortunately, we're bringing a lot of the bad are coming with the good. And I'm going to say a large percentage of those people coming across the border are probably very, very good people, probably hardworking people that would be happy to take a lot of these jobs. Unfortunately, we've also got the thugs and the bad ones coming through.
Whoa. What jobs?
The jobs that our entitled population decides they're too good to take.
Oh.
And are getting government handouts that maybe equal as much as what actually working would be.
Okay, I can go with you on the government handout. We ain't got enough jobs for the real Americans right now since Rona. So, no, they don't need no jobs.
And I can't tell you from different parts of the country, but there are, I can always find job openings available if people are willing to change direction and actually work and maybe do something that they don't love for a while until they can find something else. I have no excuse for not finding employment if you're willing to do something maybe out of the ordinary or out of your comfort zone.
Mm.
We may not agree. And I don't know about that. I can just look locally. But yeah, I understand. No, if you look at the statistics and the big numbers, there's lots of people unemployed. There's a lot of issues. But at the same time, I know from a standpoint in the livestock world and or just the production agriculture, we have difficulty finding enough employees.
I don't know where the Biden administration, who is the leader, where is the head of all this, but there's so many things that they have done already that just don't make any sense. I mean, just like no sense. And so
I don't know who's running it. I don't know who's making these decisions.
I would have thought that they would have he would have surrounded himself, or the Democrats would have put people with more of a brain over there. Okay, let's talk about your other brother, Cuomo. Okay, this is a perfect example.
I about forgot about him. I nearly forgot about him today.
This is perfect example, okay, of how the Biden administration makes no sense. Cuomo covered up all the nursing home Rona deaths. I mean, someone has come out, said it was a cover up, all this other stuff.
This is the same Cuomo that was maybe being looked at for Attorney General.
For Attorney General.
That Cuomo?
Right, yeah, that Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
Now he has 3 different women since he was supposedly in the running for AG, come out and said that he has sexually harassed them, all this other stuff. Now, we have the first female president of the United States that she is on record not once, not twice, countless times, that if you accuse someone of sexual harassment, you are to be believed. It is not have a trial, present evidence, you are to be believed. She said that she believed Biden's accusers of sexual harassment when she was running against him.
Just for clarity, this is the vice president, Camel Toe.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but hold on, I'm getting there. Do you know that Biden nor Camel Toe have come out and said anything on the record themselves about the Cuomo sexual harassment allegations? Nothing. The first female vice president of the United States is silent on this. Now, what sense does that make?
It is not following the same direction she had earlier.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It's crazy.
I believe that you are innocent until proven guilty. I do not think that there needs to be an investigation and all this other stuff to figure out if this is real. But that's not what they followed, and that's not what they did against Kavanaugh and all these other people. So why can she or Joe not come out and say, we think these women need to be heard, there needs to be an investigation, all this other stuff? Literally nothing from either of them.
I want to circle around just 1 second here back to our Biden border issues. I have a good friend that's in the trenches down there on Border Patrol. He's out there every day. I get a text or a call from him on occasion, and he's telling me that this is a mess as bad as he's ever seen it in recent history. My next trip into Texas, Ryan, I'm going to head down to that border, and he's going to take me through some of this, and I'm going to get firsthand what's going on. And this gentleman has agreed once he retires to come on and kind of give us the real story and his perspective as a Border Patrol agent. But when I talk to somebody that's down there trying to protect our country and our people, and they're telling me that at this point, it's for the most part impossible. That's frightening.
I think there's a lot of this stuff that's just beyond scary movie scary.
It is. And I don't know where it's going to end. I just don't know. We're running long on current events, and we didn't even get to one of the topics that I am so excited about, Ryan. And we'll maybe grab it next week. But those of you out there, cryptozoology.
Oh, Lord.
Look it up. We're going to talk about it next week. We're going to give you the good, the bad, the ugly of cryptozoology.
Okay.
With that said, Ryan, are you ready for the main topic?
Sure.
Or do you want to skip right to question and answer? You usually like those better.
Yeah, let's just whatever. Dale, this is your ship. I'm just a passenger.
Okay, let's go into our main topic. Starting from scratch, where to begin? We can call it a lot of different things, but it's pretty overwhelming. Ryan and I have had some question and answer, and we've had topics that have touched on this. I think we've addressed this in several episodes, but we continue to get requests on how to get started in a given species. And I'd like to try to combine this into one episode. So those that are out there searching for it, here it is. Here's what we're gonna try to address. There's so much information; it's overwhelming, and I don't even know where to begin. But let's throw out there, Ryan, just some of the things that we need to stop and consider. We're a family. Maybe the parents have been involved in showing livestock. Maybe they haven't. I could use myself as an example. My older brother and sister raised hogs and sheep, showed at the Chicago International. I was 10 years younger. As they were finishing up, I was getting started, and a lot of the livestock went away. We lived on the very edge of a small town, so facility-wise and finding a place to keep livestock for myself was a challenge. So let's start with some of those things. Do we have a facility? What does our facility accommodate?
Some of it depends if you've had any experience, if you've had no experience. But I guess the best thing to do is on your facility or whatever, you need to assess it to see if it's got the basic needs that you're going to require for whatever species that you're showing. And lambs and goats are pretty similar, but cattle and hogs and lambs and goats are all kind of different on that. And so those are things that you've got to assess quickly, because I think a lot of people just think, oh, we've got a barn and da, 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 whatever. And then they get this animal home and they realize, okay, so we're not ready.
No, that's very simple. And we've got to think about that. And that facility may dictate just what species we're going to have. And there are some considerations to be taken into account. What about the age of the exhibitor or the physical size of the exhibitor? Do we need to worry about that?
It's challenging for a small kid to show almost any species, whether it's a pig, a lamb, goat, or calf. And so I think that in that situation, if you've got one that's 8, 9, very young, I think the best thing to do is if you have experience in a certain species, probably need to stick with that species if you've got a really young one, because you will know more about how to get the showman and the animal to cooperate effectively with each other, since you've done it and had experience in that species.
And we've talked about this, I believe, a little bit in the last episode, depending on the level of competition you want to get to. And we've got to step back and take a deep breath. No matter how intelligent we think we are, maybe the experience we had 20 years ago, whatever it may be, irregardless of the help we're getting, it's going to take that child, it's going to take you, hands-on time experience to get to the point where you're going to start to find more and more success. So the level of competition that you eventually want to get to with a younger child is going to be more difficult. It just is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's challenging. Not saying it can't be done, and we did talk about this in an earlier episode, but we do need to take a deep breath and realize that some of us are ultra competitive, and we want to get to the highest level we possibly can immediately. And it's just not always realistically possible without hands-on experience from that person guiding the youth, and specifically from a youth that's just getting started. So lots of different things. What about, and it's not as big a deal maybe, Ryan, in Texas, but up here, the time of year that we have these animals on feed and what shows we're targeting makes a big difference because of our extreme swings in temperature and what type of facility we need to house some of those animals. If we're wanting to just get started and we're not real sure about it, do you think we need to put a calf on feed for nearly a year, Ryan?
I have problems when people say, oh, well, you don't need to show this, because this. I disagree with that. I think you need to show what interests you. Because if you're interested in a calf, but you're not a lamb and goat, and you just get a lamb and goat because you think your kid's young or it's more ideal weather conditions or whatever, if that's not what interests you or them, they're not going to take the time to be present and be in it. So
no, that's true.
I think you need to show whatever you're genuinely interested in.
Maybe that needs to be a combination of what the parents may have more experience in and what that child is passionate about. We hope they line up. We hope.
You have to have these discussions as a family and all this stuff. But again, if I've seen this happen where, okay, so older brother, sister has cattle. Little kids coming up, oh, we're going to get you a goat because you're little. Well, they didn't want to show a goat. They ain't been around a goat. So the goat project went to hell in a handbasket. They should have just got the child a calf and just see what happens. I mean, I'm not saying you sink, your 401k into the calf for an 8-year-old, but if they are not genuinely interested in showing that species, you're already at a disadvantage.
No, I agree. And I want to use an example. I have a family in Indiana that shows some of our goats, and one of my favorite young showmen. This little guy comes from a family that raises very, very successful show pigs, intelligent livestock family, willing to go any direction he really wants. What would be convenient for them to show? Pigs. And they could do it very, very well. For some reason, he decides he wants to show a goat. His parents know nothing about goats. He knows nothing about goats, but that's what he decided he wanted to show. And this will be going into his 3rd year. And the amount of passion that he puts towards that project because he decided that's what he wanted. You could never encourage or foster in a child that didn't want to go that direction. That's, I think, what you're getting at a little bit, Ryan.
That's it in a nutshell. That kid's supposed to want to show pigs. That's livelihood. They raise them, whatever.
The logical, the easy, all the
right. That kid is supposed to want to show pigs. He wants to show goat. And at least the parents had the foresight to let him show go, and evidently it's working out quite well. But when there is so much out there in this world right now to take kids' attention away from something like a livestock show project, if they are not 100% invested in showing that species, I mean, it's like a mountain that's almost insurmountable in terms of walking up it.
There's so many different things we can come into, but I love how Ryan brought this in, and it does revolve around, it doesn't matter how much money we throw at it. Nothing else matters if that young person isn't genuinely interested. I'm not saying that the first day they get it or the first year they're showing they need to be in the barn nonstop, but you know what? Those kids that are truly passionate and truly get into this project, they're going to be there. It just is.
There are all levels of competition in this thing, and there's all levels of gratification and success, and everybody defines that differently. You know, having your child involved and getting them to learn things like dedication and work ethic and goal setting and how to win and lose gracefully, all that stuff, that comes regardless of if they ever win a national show or state fair. That's just part of the program, and that's why kids benefit from this program regardless of how well they do in the ring. And I think sometimes people try to define success in the livestock show industry as only what happens in that show ring. Yes, that is a big part of it. Yes, absolutely, I am a competitive person, and I want success in that ring. There's also success in being involved in this and what it will do for those kids later in life because of the time they spent in that show barn and that show ring. And we lose track of that a lot. But I think, especially when we're talking about how to begin, you need to remember that part of it as well.
I think that success that can be found in the show ring works as our motivating factor, but it's everything else that comes by working towards that goal that builds these children.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's wonderful. It's amazing. The other thing, and we've kind of touched on it already, that I think is critical. If you're coming in at ground zero and maybe limited experience within your family, we need to find a friend, a 4-H leader, an FFA advisor, somebody that can help guide you. Because if you're totally blind coming into it, you can get online and do all the research in the world. You can go to every clinic in the world, but it is my opinion you need somebody there relatively close that can walk you through some of those things. And I think if we don't have that, the likelihood of it being a successful project is not as high as it needs to be.
Depending on where you're at, and if you have no experience, this is even more important. If you've had some and then we're out of it, now your kid is going to do it, it's still very important, but not as vital. But this is not hating on ag teachers or county agents or anything like that. Some of them are great and some of them are not. That's in every profession in the world. And that's just all there is to that. And it's just luck of the draw. If you get one of those extension workers or ag teachers that is truly passionate about the livestock show industry, some of them are passionate about, creed speaking and parliamentary procedure and those leadership contests, and livestock stuff's not their forte. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we're talking about a beginner starting a livestock project. So if you don't have that there locally, then you're going to need to find a breeder, a broker, a livestock salesman that is pretty local, because the hands-on part of it and actually having somebody to be able to see your animal with their own eyes and know, okay, this isn't working in terms of feeding, or this one's sick and he knows or she knows what is wrong with it without calling a vet, all this other stuff, that's a big deal. And it's very important to the success of it. I agree completely.
I think it's absolutely critical. And it's interesting, Ryan, while we're on that, in different parts of the country, I think the involvement and expectations that a livestock kid or youth would be getting from an extension agent or an FFA advisor varies dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Ryan talked about some have different interests, and I think it's geographic as well, because in the north, and again, I'm not trying to put all into this category, but for the most part, our extension agents and FFA advisors, they will get you material. They will guide you as best they can. Maybe they have experience, maybe they don't in the livestock arena. They will provide information for you, but there is very, very limited. Not all agents and not all FFA advisors, but in general, compared to, let's say, Texas, Oklahoma, maybe some parts of California, there is not that hands-on involvement that we get from those. So in this part of the country, you'd be very blessed to have an agent that had those same interest, or FFA advisor, and willing to come out and get those eyes on that animal and give you some of that hands-on experience. But it's definitely different in different parts of the country. And I'm going to say the North, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, whatever states you want to talk about. For the most part, and again, there are those agents and advisors. I'm not trying to be negative there at all, because there are some amazing ones, some of the best ones in the country that do come out and do it. But in general, it's not expected. It's not being done. So we have to search elsewhere, whether it's a family member, a friend, a breeder, a broker, some of the ones that Ryan already mentioned. But it's so refreshing to me, and it makes me feel so good. And I don't know how long ago I was first exposed to it, but the fact that an FFA chapter has a truck and trailer, maybe a barn where kids could keep animals, totally foreign to kids growing up in this part of the country.
And in Texas and Oklahoma, and again, I'm not I judged in California, not as familiar, but I'm very familiar with Texas and Oklahoma. It has become to be expected that either your FFA teacher or a county agent is going to be there beside you, with you in the trenches on these livestock show projects. And that is great, and I know that is a phenomenon that not other states have. I totally get that. And so we are very lucky and blessed. And again, I will say, just like everything else, with that comes lots of different levels. I mean, some of them are way more into it than, they know they have to do it, but some of them are truly passionate about it, and some of them are just like, I'd rather be doing something else. And so that's part of it. But we are very lucky, I think, in the state of Texas and neighboring state of Oklahoma, that the ag teachers and county agents are all involved in livestock in some way or another.
No, I would agree completely. There's so much out there. While we're talking about that, as we go online, as we read different advertisements, look at different feed companies, look at different supplements, there's something that maybe we need to address, Ryan, and I don't know exactly how to take it on, but somebody getting started that really wants to gather as much as information as possible, there's no question you're going to hit information overload and contradictory information. Depending on who you have helping you or what information you find, we need to realize one thing. Everyone has a different approach on selection, feeding, fitting, everything involved with the Stock Show project. I guarantee if one person tells you something a certain way, I can go find another person that's going to go the other direction. So don't assume it's all exactly the same when it's
there is no Bible
doing something. No, there isn't. I wish there was. Maybe it'd make it easier. But I love the fact that this has become an art, and we use science, and it goes in a direction that's exciting, because there are many different ways to get to the end point.
I think general principles are pretty basic in almost everybody, but like you're saying, there are so many different ways to get a desired result in all the different areas of a livestock show project, and it just, especially for a beginner, put trust in who you have bought that animal from, or, if you have a local FFA 4-H person that is involved in it hands-on every day, put your trust in them when you don't know, because obviously, talking about the beginning family doing this, these people have more experience right now and have for the past few years. And so they know the new things that have come into play, and they still know the standards that have always worked. So you're going to have to put a lot of trust in them when you're just starting out, and you'll learn. I meet a million stock show families, it seems like. And so just like at this county fair this past week, which I meant to give them a shout out in current events and I didn't, but Altus, Oklahoma had the most amazing county fair I have ever been to in my life. They had smoke and lights and music and fire, and it was just, wow. Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed. And if all county shows were like that, then I would try to judge one every day. But a young man that won showmanship, I think that was his 6th year to win cattle showmanship at that show, and his older sister was standing there, and they have a traveling trophy for showmanship. And she said, I never won cattle showmanship here, because I was the first and we didn't know. And so that sums it up right there. You will learn. And all these families, it always seems like the older siblings, they don't have as much success sometimes, and they don't get all the benefits of the years and years and years families spend in this, and the younger ones do. And that's why, because you will learn and you will continue to pick up things, and you'll figure out things that work for you at your facility on what you're doing that won't work for anybody else. Because I promise you, that's when you know that you're good and you've figured this deal out, is when something does work for you in your operation that it doesn't work for anybody else.
No, exactly, Ryan. And that's putting it into words exactly as I hope that our listeners can comprehend and understand. And you brought up the fact that I think that's a great example, that sister that never won beef showmanship and her younger brothers won it 6 times, you had said. Mm-hmm. I have worked with families now, some of the families for 10 years. And whether it's a younger sibling, a cousin, a niece, a nephew, whatever that may be, it's incredible how when we first started, those older siblings or the exhibitors that first jumped into it, that learning curve was pretty steep. Mm-hmm. And over the years, they progressed, and you've continued to see more and more success. You see the younger siblings able to achieve more success at a younger age. But guess what? It all builds from that experience that started with that older sibling.
Mm-hmm. That sums it up.
And it's just it just there. It's so crystal clear to me, and it makes you feel so good because you understand that family is gaining knowledge each year, and they're passing that knowledge on, whether it's just that younger sibling observing it, just the day-to-day hands-on, all of those factors combined. It's so gratifying when you continue to see them to make progress, not only with one individual year after year, but when it passes down to that younger sibling and they have more success because of the experience they're building off of. And that's something that takes me into one of the things that is disappointing. There are some situations that you'll watch this exhibitor, the stock show youth, year after year, and they're not making any improvement. And there's several factors that come into it. Maybe they're not passionate about it. Maybe it's not something they really want to do. Maybe they're not under the proper guidance. There's lots of reasons for it. But let's use that as an example. If we're stuck in that rut where we're doing the same thing year after year and we're having very limited to minimal success, we need to change. We need to figure out what needs done differently. Let's change direction here. Maybe let's find somebody else to guide us. Let's decide on a different species if we're not passionate about it. And if we're not, maybe we don't need to do it. So there's a lot of different things that come into play.
I am one of the biggest believers and supporters of this industry and what it does for kids. And I don't think there's a greater program to raise a child than the junior livestock show industry. But I'm also going to tell you it's not for everybody. And the saddest thing that I see is a child that is being forced into this. They're not passionate about it. And you can tell and you can see it in their actions, whether they're just at the show or in the ring. And I guess why it makes me sad is kind of twofold. Not just because they're not passionate about something that I am so passionate about and I think is so good for them, but more importantly, I want them to be able to be involved in what they are passionate about. And so that's always a situation. And it's rare, not rare. I mean, it happens, but yeah, that part of it is not good. And sometimes it's not, just like you said, it's not that they're not passionate about showing or the program. It's just nothing's worked and they're frustrated. And I get that part too. And so I think that's probably the biggest point of being a beginner is whether you've had zero experience or you've had past experience but been out of it a while. I think the biggest decision that you make after you decide what you're going to show is who you're going to buy that animal from. And I've said this on a number of podcasts, and you're going to get tired of listening to me say it, and it's okay. You have to be honest with those people and shop around and go look, see who you gel with, whose personalities work together, who's genuinely interested in your kid, and most importantly, be honest with them and say, hey, we've never done this, but we want to. Or, I did this 20 years ago, ain't been in a show barn since. Are you the person that is going to be able to help guide me day in and day out? More times than not, I think they're going to be honest with you and say, yes, I can do that, or I've got so many customers, that's just not something we focus in, but XYZ does. There are quality animals of every species at lots of different places to shop from, all over, in every state. Finding that person that can best fit your needs after you take that critter home for a beginner is probably more important than selecting the animal itself.
It's more important than the critter you take home. No question.
That's what I'm saying.
And Ryan, you can't, I want you to say that in every episode, because if there's one thing that we can guide the people getting back into this or just getting started, exactly what Ryan just said there. If you're that upfront and honest with that breeder and or broker, whoever you're purchasing from, generally speaking, they have a vested interest in that animal doing well. And if they can help you and achieve success, that works for them. If they can't, they know it's going to be a train wreck, and there's no reason to sell that animal because it's not going to represent them well.
Yep.
You're not going to have a good experience. All those factors combined, it doesn't point that direction. But wow, if you can be that open, that honest, and I think when you're just starting, we talked about these kids that maybe don't have success for the first couple of years. If we're setting goals or expectations to go win our state fair or a national show or something crazy high, and we don't meet those goals, it's going to be a little more discouraging for those kids. So let's keep our goals realistic, and let's allow those kids to go that direction and maybe achieve a goal at that local level. And I promise you, once they get a taste for that, if they have that competitive drive, they're going to jump on board and they're going to push forward as hard as you want them to. And I am a very competitive person. All four of my children, my wife and I's children are different. And I want to share just a real short story or a personal experience, I guess I should say. Our youngest son is exposed to goats, cattle. He showed pigs for a couple of years. He will go out and help his siblings work with their livestock. He'll go out and help us vaccinate, trim feed. He's the one doing chores, feeding the recip lots every single morning. He's involved in the business from that standpoint, but for some reason, he has no true passion to show a goat. We tried getting a couple pigs. He thought he might be interested in it. Loved going down and walking the pigs, taking care of the pigs. All of that was fine. But when it came time for show day, he just assumed his sister showed it. Just for some reason, that desire or that passion wasn't there. So we've let him go other directions. It's difficult as a parent, or I'm going to use myself as an example. It's difficult for him to not want to do that because that's where my experience base comes from, and that's where I can help him the most. But in all reality, his passion is not there. He is much more interested in Scholastic Bowl. And he's going through and telling me all about Greek mythology and asking me different Scholastic Bowl questions. And Ryan, can you imagine how well I do not do?
I'm sure you're great at that.
It's a train wreck, absolute train wreck. But that's what he's passionate about. And somehow I need to find a way to engage and become more involved with those things. So Ryan and I, we're always going to push the stock show lifestyle industry, how it's one of the best tools there are out there for youth. But as parents, and we maybe have a younger child just starting, if it's not something they want, we also have to accept maybe it's not going to work for them. Maybe that's not the direction they want to take.
I think this is the greatest youth program in the world, but it's not for everybody. And if you can't see that and you can't recognize that, you're not looking hard enough, because there are exceptions to everything. And there's just some kids that this isn't it for them. And what I want those kids to not be stuck here doing this. I want them to be doing something that does ignite their passion. But not every, I mean, you see that rare instances, but it is there. But a lot of it is try to make every experience for those beginners as good as you possibly can, if no matter what level that you're involved in it in, whether you're the parent, whether you're the broker, whether you're the ag teacher, whatever, just try to make every single one of those experiences as positive as we can. The thing that I find the most fascinating about livestock shows, winning a class or winning a breed and all this other stuff, that's all great. At the end of the day, there's one ultimate winner. I find it fascinating that the majority of the people that show can find success at any given show on different levels, whether it's making the sale at a county fair, getting a brand at a major show, or there are people in Texas that if they stay in the ring in any of those species, if they just get to stay in the ring, they find success in that. And so that's something that's fascinating to me. It always has been. And I think that's part of the reason that this program does help so many kids, is because you can find success at so many different levels.
It's no different than somebody that grew up that was enthusiastic, passionate, successful in basketball or baseball or soccer, and we're kind of naturally drawn to push our kids that direction because we have that experience. We're more willing to engage in those things with them. And I think there's a mistake that I've made for many years because of having multiple businesses. My time tends to get directed too much towards business and not as much as I would like towards my children, in trying to do better each day with that. I can reflect back, and I assure you that time from a parent or that person that's helping somebody with a youth livestock project, or whether it's playing catch with a baseball, it doesn't matter. When you're taking the time to engage hands-on with that child or that youth, it's amazing how much more interested and enjoyable and enthusiastic they become about whatever that is. And it's simple. Rather than saying, go do your chores, go down there and engage with them, go out there with them, discuss the different things, partake, be present. And it's hard. We lead very busy lives. It's very, very difficult to make that time. But I can say from experience, I wish I would have made more time. And as of today, as of yesterday and the day before, each day I try to take more time to do that. It may mean that I'm pushing off 10 phone calls I should make today that maybe don't get done until tomorrow. But guess what? It's more important to get those priorities in line. Ryan, this is good. We didn't talk about the financial basis, and I don't want to take a lot of time on that, but obviously there's prices out there on show animals anywhere from something fairly reasonable to crazy. And you can go any direction with that. When I say crazy, just there's a price that sometimes is placed on these animals that no matter what show you win, it's not going to make money. And if we go into it thinking that we're going to make money, good luck, guys, because it's difficult. I'm not saying that we want to lose an obscene amount, but assess what your budget is, include your feed, include everything involved. And when you're out shopping for livestock, be very upfront with that breeder, that broker, that this is, like Ryan said, this is our first year. Are you willing to assist, or what can you do to maybe guide us? And here's how much we have to spend. And maybe it works for that breeder. Maybe they have several animals that work in that price range. Maybe they don't. But I think the more upfront you are, and please, especially when it's online sales, and we host lots of online sales, it's a lot easier to hit that bid button on a computer than it is to write that check out when it's time to pay for the darn thing.
it's so different in every family, and that's why I tell people all the time, and this is getting a little off topic, but this financial part, it's tough. And my parents spent insane amount of money on my projects.
We're gonna call it obscene.
Yeah, and I mean, till to this day, it's still obscene. I don't know anybody that is successful at this at any level, or even the levels that I consider successful, that went in this to make money. I have heard and had 1,000 conversations with people that if they got enough money back at the end of the year to either cover the cost of those animals, or more importantly, cover the cost of the feed, electricity bill, and all that other stuff, then they consider that, a financial win. It's not a cheap hobby. It's never been a cheap hobby. It's not ever going to be one. Just know what you can and cannot do. And we've talked on several episodes, just far back, as recent as Mr. Fugate being on here. Yes, you don't have to spend an astronomical amount to win in some cases. A lot of times you do. But it can happen for everybody. So just remember that.
It can, and we're making fun of how much money Ryan's parents have spent on some of his projects. But I want to point something out, and there's a lot of money spent every day, and the amount of money that you spend on that project is irrelevant if you don't have the knowledge and experience to get them fed, to get them presented, all those things that go along with it. If Ryan's family and Ryan's passion wasn't in that area, it wouldn't have mattered how much he spent. The success would not have followed. I can use Ryan and I as an example, and we're both here today on this podcast doing what we can to try to educate and get information out there. Ryan, I can remember one steer. I showed very few steers. The one steer that I showed, would you like to know what I paid for the thing?
Go right ahead.
I believe, it's a long time ago, I brought another young man that was in my high school FFA chapter, and we bought him together so we could afford him. I believe he was $1,500, and I can remember that being painfully difficult to come up with my half. But yet, did it give me some of that experience and push me in a direction that was going to work? Absolutely. He may have won a class at a county fair, and that would have been the first calf project that I was involved in. And I was excited that this particular calf was able to go and have success by winning his class. And that's maybe coming back to, let's set our goals and make them realistic. But it doesn't matter how much you're spending on that animal. And if you have the ability to continue to improve upon yourself each year and gain that knowledge, success is going to follow. If you have somebody that's guiding you that's equally as passionate and wants to do this, success breeds success. And over time, it's going to work. And I could have never dreamed that I would have ended up where I'm at today back when I started projects, for example, with that calf and other things. And irregardless of how much I spent or how much Ryan spent, we're both in this industry doing what we love to do, and it works. You're going to get there. It can be done. You don't need to spend a fortune. Even when we don't spend a lot on the animal, there's still feed costs. Everything else is expensive. I'm not saying it's any different than professional soccer coach or whatever we're going to do in some of the other things that help educate and build our youth. But it is what it is. But we can get so much out of it in so many different directions.
There you go.
We are ready, Ryan. I think we're ready for your very favorite.
It is just my most favorite part ever.
And as we go into question and answer, guys, and kind of summarizing our main topic again, I cannot emphasize some of the things that Ryan mentioned about being upfront with that breeder, broker, whether extension agent, ag agent. Just open, honest. Here's where we're at. Here's what we want to do. Can you help? Is it going to work? Go with that, guys. That's going to get you a long, long ways. And that guidance that you get is more important than the animal you purchase, especially those first couple of years. Question and answer, Ryan. Paul from Minnesota. Hey, Ryan and Dale. I am from Rushford, Minnesota. A few good friends and myself are starting a point series in Minnesota for junior cattle exhibitors. We are calling it the North Star Point Series. Do you guys have any suggestions, do's and don'ts, ideal that can help us make the North Star Point Series a huge success for the juniors in Minnesota? We currently have 12 shows that are sanctioned. Thank you for your advice and time. Ryan, this is in your wheelhouse.
No, actually,
Something
this is
called
Cherie's wheelhouse.
TJLA, it is her. But yeah,
This is Cherie's wheelhouse.
You have been exposed to it.
Yeah, more than I want to know. But anyway, yes. Obviously, when my mother started the TJLA, I was not. I mean, she started it before I was born, so wasn't around. So and don't remember the beginnings of it all. But from the stories that she's told, I think the number one thing to do is to get that information out there to as many exhibitors as possible, as rapidly as possible as you can. So whether it's when membership deadlines are, if you have a membership deadline, or when those 12 shows are going to be. I think one of the best things that she's probably ever implemented in the TJLA is she has a way that she can email every single member information, whether it's about a show that's coming up that weekend or, this or that. And so that is something that I would suggest to you is eBlast are a really good thing. And that way, when that show, the first show or the 12th shows coming up, you can send that out to every member in your database and they're aware of it so nobody misses out on much. And then as far as everything else, and I think this is a big thing in the livestock industry in general right now, is transparency. Have those rules up there, and I'm going to promise you they're not going to read them all. But if you can say, if you will go to our website, our bylaws were there, they've been up since whatever, when you do have problems, and you're going to have problems, I promise you, my mom's been doing this her whole entire life, and she gets very few thank yous and a whole lot of bitching. And that's why I'm not as involved in the TJLA as she wants me to be, because I don't like the way my mother gets treated. I'm just being real honest. There is going to be that part of that. So be as transparent, have that stuff up there so you can go back and say, hey, this was here on XYZ. My mother will tell you throughout all the bitching and the way she's been treated, she wouldn't change any of it. And that's why she still does it. It will be a very fulfilling deal for y'all, but it's not going to be without challenges, and there are going to be days where you're going to wonder why you got into it.
Ryan, thank you. And I'm going to give a shout out to Cherie, because I can think when she's asked for donations for the Fall Classic or the Belt Buckle or whatever show she's trying to sponsor, it's amazing to me. I know she doesn't get sponsors for all those buckles. I know she doesn't get sponsors to cover the cost of that facility. And she digs in and she covers it out of her own pocket. And
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
even want to, I don't think people have any idea. I don't think she knows I don't think she wants to know what that number is over the
No,
years.
I don't.
But I'll tell you what, I appreciate it's because of what she does and people like her that allow the experiences to happen. And I cannot think of a more thankless job from the standpoint of having to go out and get those donations, put the time in to run that show. It's not thankless from the standpoint. I think it's very gratifying to her, and she loves doing it, and she believes in this industry. But wow, Paul, I'm thrilled that you're starting a series. I wish you all the success. I would give you whatever I could, but Ryan did a far better job of kind of laying out some of the things, and we're here to bounce questions off of anytime you'd like. And wow, if we could get more people like yourself and some of your friends there that you've gathered up to put on events like this is what it's all about. We have more shows today and this year in 2021 than we ever have. We have choice. We're seeing situations where there's pressure from a startup show that maybe is putting pressure on a more traditional show. And all of that's good. Competition is good. It makes everybody better, and it makes everybody step their game up. And as Ryan and I have said so many times, we need to accommodate the exhibitors, those stock show families, as best we can. If we do that, they're going to show up at these events. They're going to be at those shows. It's all good. The next question and answer, Ryan. This one comes from Blaine. Hello, Dale and Ryan. First of all, thank you for bringing such a great podcast to all us listeners who are part of the stock show industry. My family and I show livestock, mainly hogs, all over the country and are extremely competitive. I'm from a rural community in eastern side of the state of Washington, And I will admit we're 10 plus years behind in trends, show animal look, etc. in the show ring. I have a question for y'all. In episode 40, County Fair Mentality, y'all talked about want to see the change at a show. You have to be a part of the change. How can I be a part of the change when the show managers and officials don't, and I mean don't, want to accept the aspect of change, or how do I go about encouraging them to do so? Ryan, this is you.
Why is everything me?
I don't know. I wish because I don't have an answer. But you know what? In all seriousness, think about that episode and think about the county fair mentality. Sometimes we have people in positions, right or wrong, that maybe have not been outside of their county show, haven't been to other shows. Maybe they have and just want some control. Maybe it's intentional, maybe it's unintentional. But it is difficult to get some of those to listen. I had a text come in last night, very late, West Coast. They had just gotten back from a fair meeting, and the text came in, Ryan, and said, hey, our fair superintendent listens to your podcast. They've never released the judges' names before. They're releasing them from now on forward. Those things are good. I enjoy getting those texts, and thank you for that one because it means we are having an impact. To Blaine, Ryan, I don't know. I don't know how to get through to him.
Without knowing specifics, it's about how the county fair is set up in terms of who runs it, who makes decisions, stuff like that. And without specifics, knowing of what this family has tried to do, etc., it's real hard to answer that question. I can tell you that I sympathize with you because I do know for all the positives that are in this industry, we do not like change. And I'm living proof of that. Absolutely living proof.
Time out. The world loves the gay.
No, not everyone loves the gay.
Yeah. No, I see it on Facebook. I see them wanting your autograph at shows. I see all of this.
No.
They are definitely, we are seeing more change now and more acceptance than we ever have.
And do you know how long it's taken to get here?
You don't like me telling people your age.
No, but that's the point that you don't understand. This didn't happen overnight.
No, I agree completely.
This has been me doing this for years and years and years and years. And yes, now, more than ever, I am popular and people want me to judge their shows. But it's taken a long time to get here. And people don't like change in this industry. And just like that county fair that I talked about that brought in the company that did the lights, the smoke, and the mirrors and all that stuff, those kids were so excited. You could read it all over their faces. And I got told by almost every volunteer there how many people have told them what they were doing was awful, it was horrible, that you couldn't, this was
you're talking, they were against bringing a spotlight to those kids.
Yes, absolutely. That this was
Did you tell them what you thought?
Oh, yeah, I told them what I thought. I talked about this very topic, about how I am living proof that they don't like change in this industry. But change is inevitable. And if you don't realize that, then you're not opening your eyes to everything that happens in the world. And sometimes change is good, and sometimes change is bad. But it is inevitable. My only advice to you is don't give up. And again, without specifics, I can't give you specific ways to help your situation or to get them to change. I can tell you that the more people that voice their opinion, the better off you'll be. And so you've got to go to other exhibitors in that county and get them on board. Even if it's just one thing that y'all can all agree on needs to be changed, start there. And everybody go. And then, once they change one thing, their defenses are down and maybe it's easier to subject more change. But I can tell you, no matter what the specifics of that county are, and the hierarchy or how decisions are made, the more people that go voice that same opinion, the better off you're going to be.
Ryan, that is the best answer and question answer yet. That was good. I like that one. We have since you had such a strong response there, we're going to go for a third one today.
Oh, okay.
This comes from Jade. I have a question for question and answer. I recently just had students exhibit at 2 shows where there were 2 judges in the ring, Cowgirls in Cowtown and the Patriots Steer Show. My question is, when 2 judges are in the ring, they are both actively judging and not standing together, which judge is the kid supposed to look at?
And the answer is both. That sounds impossible, but it's really not. And people make way too big a deal out of this. But whoever the judge that is closest to you and your animal, that's who you look at the most. You need to glance back, see where the other person is, be aware of where they are in the ring, and when they come then down to your animal, then you look at them. But you have to give attention to both judges. They're both out there, they're both evaluating, and you need to be able to recognize both of them with eye contact and your attention. So again, it's no one's ever going to designate, okay, this is the judge that we all look at, because they're both equally as important. So they both need to be paid attention to.
Excellent. And I want to add on to that, Ryan, and let's not overthink it. And there are sometimes there's going to be 2 judges out there, and that's fine. Those judges understand that it's more normal to have 1 judge and 2, and they get it. They're not going to jump on you for not always having that eye contact. But I think there's one thing I want to bring out, whether it's a single judge or 2 judges in the ring, especially if there's 2 judges in the ring. You get ultra focused on one and trying to get that eye contact to the point where maybe you're not paying attention to how your animal's set up, what's going on and around you. And Ryan mentioned it, glance at both of them. I think having a ring awareness sometimes gets a back seat because you hear so many people, whether it's a parent, an advisor, somebody guiding you, they talk about, look at the judge, look at the judge. I'd like to cancel that term, Ryan. I want those showmen, I want my kids out there in the ring to look at the judge and be aware of everything that's going on. I want them to look at the judge from the standpoint that I'm looking at you, hey, I've got a good one. I want that look that I've got a good one. I want to win. I'm here. I've put my time in. I'm doing everything I can. I want to do well. I would like to see that. But at the same time, I don't want to get just focused on that judge where we're tripping over an animal's feet, where we're doing other things. Let's be intelligent about it. Do those glances around. Know when you need to look at the judge. When he's getting ready to pull you in, one of the frustrating things that I have, I go to pull a child in or a youth in, and they're not looking at me, and I basically have to either wait on them or go up them and tell them to come in, and sometimes it happens. So there's a happy medium, a fine line there. I don't want you staring at me the entire time I'm out there and not paying attention to your animal.
That's just because he's subconscious that his clothes aren't good enough to be stared at the whole time.
That's possible. So I would like to cancel culture the extreme term, look at the judge. Yeah, let's look at the judge, but let's also pay attention to everything else around us. And when there's 2 people out there judging, they get it. They know that you're not always going to be looking at them specifically. But good question, Jade. I think all good. Ryan, there's one thing we maybe forgot to bring up in current events or anywhere. You talked about your county fair and the Oklahoma City event-like selection. What are we doing this year in Oklahoma City?
Well, we are going to broadcast live from the Oklahoma Youth Expo Grand Drive.
And it is exciting. I cannot wait for this event. We've talked to the officials there. Tyler's given us the go-ahead that we're going to be out there, and it's going to be good. I don't know. We have to talk to our producer, Clifton, about is it going to be on Facebook, YouTube? But Ryan and I don't understand those things that well. But Clifton will take care of it.
I spent a whole lot of money on an outfit. This better be able to be seen, is all I'm going to say.
Can I ask?
No, you cannot.
Can I ask what brand?
No. Shirt. Well, it'll be a Robert Graham shirt, duh. That's like 95% of what I own.
Now, I don't even know what Robert Graham is. Until the other day, guess what happened?
What?
Somehow it's popping up on my Instagram feed.
Did you did you pull it up?
No, I did not. I did not. I think somehow, I hate to say this, I'm tied to you.
Could be tied to worse people.
But I did hear the prices of the shirts. Somebody did. You know what? Somebody texted me the prices of those shirts just so I'd have it for the podcast. Maybe because it was in a damn text. All of a sudden it's popping up. But I'm telling you, and I tell you.
That's probably why.
Isn't it crazy?
I bet so.
It's an invasion of privacy. It's unconstitutional, all those things. But
Jesus.
It's a very,
This will be on
very
current events next week.
It is
back
an effective
to
way.
Hawaii.
Okay, back to Hawaii. We will be there. Absolutely, we'll be there. Please come find us. we'll get you more details, I assume, next week, Ryan.
Yeah, because it's coming up. But Thursday, March 18th, I think is the date. And we're going to podcast or broadcast live the whole thing. And I don't know, the grand drive start at 6. We haven't quite gotten it worked out on what time we're going to go live yet, but we'll get you that information and it will be out on social media. But again, this is our first live podcast. We're looking forward to it, and I can't think of a better place to do it. OIE, that grand drive is just absolutely spectacular, and it's one of a kind. And that show has gone above and beyond, even last year during Rona and all this, to make things happen. And I talked about this a lot in my 7-day county fair tour through Oklahoma last week. The one thing about the state of Oklahoma is they've canceled less and they've helped more, because that state has made more things happen, not only for the exhibitors of their state, but for exhibitors all across the country. And I think that's even more reason why we're choosing OIE to be the first live podcast.
Absolutely, Ryan. And for those that haven't been there for that event, and maybe they've heard about it, maybe they haven't, I'm excited to bring that to the stock show world, and hopefully they can witness it. Because if we can simply push all of our shows into going that direction, focusing a little more spotlight on those exhibitors, it's huge. I can't even put into words how impactful and excited those kids are if they make that grand drive at OIE.
You right on that.
It's good. It's really, really good. Ryan, it's been another great episode. I appreciate all the wonderful insight. I'm excited about OIE. It's all good. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?